One of the greatest mysteries in life is a simple question. How does one get a statue built for them? If you are an ancient god or goddess, it seems pretty easy. But it's no guarantee you will get a statue that stays up for hundreds or thousands of years. Take two of the ancient seven wonders of the world, the Colossus of Rhodes and the statue of Zeus, who met their demise far before photographs could have immortalized them forever. But some statues seem obvious to make, like the first Prime Minister of India, who helped get their independence in the mid-1900s. He now has the largest statue in the world, which might get you thinking, well, what about the United States, our great George Washington? What do we give him? Well, I'll tell you what we gave him. A weird crossover between the statue of Zeus and George Washington? That's really all he gets? I'm not counting this thing as a statue. So all that to say, there is no rhyme or reason when it comes to who or what gets a statue. It all depends on who's got enough money and what do they want to make. So in today's video, we're gonna go over the best NFL statues and then the worst. I'm gonna be ranking these on 3 criteria. 1, how iconic does the statue look? Will somebody who sees it for the first time be in awe, in wonder? Will they want to know the story behind the player or the moment the statue is depicting? 2, is the player doing something memorable that they were known for in their career? And if they were, it has to look good. And 3, is the statue celebrating an iconic moment in franchise history, like an amazing play or winning the Super Bowl? If you check all 3 of those boxes, you are an amazing statue in my eyes. So without further ado, this is Sean, and these are my top best and worst NFL statues. And we're gonna start this list out with the 10 best. And in my 10 spot, I have the legendary Pat Tillman. And this guy's just an Arizona legend, so it makes sense that he's got a statue in Arizona. Played for the Sun Devils in college. Drafted by the Cardinals, set the team record for tackles in a season in the year 2000, and then turned down a huge deal from the Rams to stay in Arizona. After 9/11, he quit, or at least put his playing career on hold to go serve in the military, and he was killed in a friendly fire incident in Afghanistan. And this statue is beautiful. The motion in his hair and his jersey rippling, reminding us of what kind of player he was. But then also the location of the statue, with the walls behind it and the pool in a very peaceful, serene spot, adds almost an eerie yet calm feeling knowing how Pat's life ended. I think this one's really good, and considering there's not that many players who actually have a statue between all the NFL teams, I think this one is very warranted. At number 9, I have a pair of statues at the Denver Broncos Stadium, but the first one I want to talk about is the most iconic. That would be Bucky the Bronco. Now, he holds a very important part in this stadium's lore. He was at their old stadium, Mile High, and they actually brought the same statue over to their brand new stadium. And the story with this one is actually pretty funny. So the creator of the statue would make all sorts of statues from the years 1962 till 1985, and one of the statues they made was for Western movie star Roy Rogers. And his horse, who he would have in a lot of his movies, was named Trigger. So this company made a mold of Trigger and made a statue for Roy Rogers, and then about 10 years later, the same company was asked to make a Bronco for the new stadium. And funnily enough, they didn't destroy the original mold they made for Rogers, so they called him up and asked, "Hey dude, can we make your horse's mold for this new football team stadium?" And he said yes. The only condition was that they couldn't name it Trigger after his original horse. So there was a whole contest. They ended up calling him Bucko, which turned into Bucky, and that's Bucky the Bronco. And I just love how big it is. You can see it from anywhere inside or outside of the stadium. It's in action. It's got its front hooves up, and I honestly think it's so cool. I wish I could put it higher, but I did not want any non-football players or coaches in the top 5. But still, a pretty badass statue. And then there's these guys outside the stadium, right below Bucky. Not much more to say about these except they're also cool. Denver Broncos, they did it amazing, being able to incorporate their mascot into statues at the stadium. At number 8, I have this amazing Barry Sanders statue. It probably does not come to a surprise to you football fans that running backs and quarterbacks are the positions that get the most statues. And Barry Sanders is one of the best running back statues. It was modeled after this iconic picture of him making a ferocious cut on the football field, all the way down to the detail of the tape on his fingers, the drawstring in his waistband moving. It's larger than life. They captured the elusiveness of Sanders when he was on the football field perfectly. But this statue also came with a little bit of controversy. The photographer of the original photo used to reference this statue is suing the Detroit Lions for copyright infringement using his photo as the inspiration for this statue. The Lions say this is a meritless claim, but we're gonna see what happens in court. Keep your eyes peeled. Regardless though, pretty awesome statue. At number 7, we have our last animal on the list, and in my opinion, the coolest. This is the Atlanta Falcon, and this is the perfect mascot statue. I mean, the thing's huge. 43 feet tall, a 70-foot wingspan, and it's 73,000 pounds of stainless steel. And it's apparently the largest freestanding bird sculpture in the world. That is the exact quote from the Falcons, whatever that may mean. And it was made in Budapest by the Hungarian sculptor Gabor Miklos, and they shipped it all the way to Atlanta to get put together with the brand new stadium. And I think all that work did not go to waste, because this statue is absolutely breathtaking. Great job, Atlanta. At number 6 is this awesome one, the Peyton Manning statue outside of Lucas Oil Stadium. And man, when I say this is larger than life, it is freaking huge, as it should be. He's one of the greatest Indianapolis Colts in history, brought them a Super Bowl, and you'd be surprised by how many Hall of Famers do not have a statue outside of their stadium. So knowing that Peyton got one, it's giant, it's awesome, that makes me really happy. So shout out to the Colts, shout out to Peyton and his big head. I love how giant this one is. It's a good one. I'd like to see it in person one day. We are now at the top 5, and these are the big dogs, the best NFL statues ever that are still standing. And at this spot, I have one that embodies what a perfect statue should be, what a perfect moment statue should be, and that is the Rebirth statue outside of the Saints Stadium. Now, as many of us know, in 2005, New Orleans was hit by Hurricane Katrina, caused huge devastation to the city. Many people unfortunately lost their lives. It took them a very long time to recover and rebuild many parts of the city, the Superdome included. During the hurricane, many people were actually sheltering inside of the stadium, and the damage to it was so extensive that the Saints didn't even finish their season there. But 2006 rolled around and they were ready to play at their stadium once again. Their first game back was on Monday Night Football, and that is when Steve Gleason blocked a punt that would eventually turn into a touchdown for the Saints. It was such an iconic moment. The announcers knew to keep their mouth shut and just let the roar of the 70,000 in attendance take over. And I think Rebirth is a very fitting title for this statue, as many people in attendance at that game were taking shelter inside that very same stadium months ago during the hurricane. Football is a way to forget about life's problems for a few hours, and we all know that those New Orleans residents really needed that. And the Saints also said that they chose this moment as a statue because it represents everything Steve Gleason accomplished in his career and his life, facing challenges that come his way as he was unfortunately diagnosed with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And to quote Gleason himself, to have a statue of you up 100 years from now at the Superdome, I think that's amazing. And Steve, I agree. This one rocks. And if that was a great example of a moment statue, this is the perfect example of a player statue. At number 4, I have Ray Lewis. He was on both of the Ravens' only Super Bowl championship teams in 2000 and 2012. He won the Super Bowl MVP in the year 2000. He was on the Ravens for his entire career. And he had a silly little dance he did when he came out onto the field, and they turned it into the statue. So it checks all my boxes. He was very worthy of a statue. He was on both of their greatest teams ever, and it shows his personality and his character. Now, was there a petition to get this statue taken down because he possibly killed someone? Yes. Hello, Sean here. And I'm editing the video, and I unfortunately now have to tell you what I just said was wrong. I just found out the petition was not because everybody pretty much knows that Ray Lewis killed a dude. I just assumed that, and you know what they say about assuming, but the petition was actually because he was kneeling during the national anthem. And the only thing I have to say to that is the people who are that upset over him kneeling during the national anthem are the same people who get up in arms when literal Confederate soldiers who were fighting to keep slavery get their statues taken down. So, you're kind of a wimp. Okay, back to the video. But as you'll learn in the second half of this video, there are much bigger controversies that actually got statues taken down. So when you put that to the side, this, in my opinion, is the best statue made of a singular player ever. Great job, Baltimore. On to number 3. Now, if you watched my baseball statue videos, you know I am such a sucker for a great moment statue. The player ones are great, don't get me wrong, but immortalizing a moment in time forever, I think, is a great way to grow the young fan base who will look at that statue and wonder, why did this certain play deserve to be immortalized forever? And for that very reason, that's why I have the Philly Special statue as my number 3. And this one might get some controversy because it's literally just a coach talking to the quarterback. But that might lead a new fan who doesn't know about the moment to look into it and learn just how important it was to the city of Philadelphia. This is the moment that Doug Peterson told Nick Foles they are running the Philly play, where Nick Foles would catch a touchdown of his own to help lead the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the juggernaut New England Patriots for their first ever and their only Super Bowl championship. So yes, while it is a bit of a dorky statue with them just standing there, I would have loved it if it was the play itself with Foles extending his arms to catch the ball. This is literally the play that gave them their first ever title. And I really wish more NFL teams would appreciate those small moments, because championships last forever, and so do statues. So this one frickin' rocks. At number 2, another phenomenal moment statue, and this is Don Shula getting carried off the field by Nick Buniconi and Al Jenkins after the only ever undefeated season in NFL history. After the Dolphins defeated the Redskins in the 1972 Super Bowl, Shula was carried off the field in an iconic picture, which was then turned into this phenomenal statue. I was so happy to find out that the only perfect season ever had a statue to go with it, and there's really not much more I can say about this. It's a part of NFL history that needed a statue, and it got one. So great job on Miami. Go Dolphins. And before I get to number 1, I have a few honorable mentions, some statues that didn't quite crack the top 10. We're gonna go over them quickly here though. We have the Art Rooney statue in Pittsburgh. I thought this one was great because originally they didn't want the cigar in his hand, but he was so synonymous with having the cigar, so the sculptor put his hand in a certain position where the cigar really wasn't that visible. They did a great job. Tom Landry, it's hard to make a coach look badass. They did it here. He's very stoic, looking off into the distance. I also have Tom Brady here because his statue's not built yet, but it's going to get unveiled very shortly this season, and I feel like it probably would have been on my top 10 if it was made by the time I released this video. We have the Lambeau Leap statue, a cool way for fans to get a picture pretending they are a player doing the leap. And how about this one? The 49ers Hall of Fame has a statue of every player they have in their Ring of Honor. It's got players, it's got coaches, it even has the punter. The only thing that sucks is this is not an easily accessible part of the stadium. You need to have a tour of their stadium museum. So the fact that nobody can go see it whenever they go to a game, kind of a bummer. We have the Lone Panther here in Carolina. It looks very ferocious, very muscular, very scary, but I think the other 2 animals on the list beat it out. Here's Hall of Famer Jim Brown's statue in Cleveland, and there's nothing wrong with it. He's one of the greatest of all time. Looks like he's making a vicious cut. This is a great statue. They just did Barry Sanders a little bit better. These set of bulls outside of Houston Texans Stadium look pretty cool. I thought they were worth a quick mention. And if you thought the 49ers statue was a missed opportunity, look at this. This is called the Moment of Victory statue. When the Buccaneers won their first ever Super Bowl, it has Coach Gruden and all the players celebrating, a great moment statue. The only thing wrong with it is it's not at the stadium. It's at their practice facility down the street. That doesn't count. And you know I had to mention the pirate ship at Buccaneer Stadium. I don't know if it's a statue. I don't really think it is. If it was, it would definitely be on the list, but I couldn't not mention it. It's awesome. A little less awesome, still cool though, is the Viking ship outside of Minnesota Stadium. Now, I've been told by people who have actually gone, it doesn't actually look this cool in person, but if you look at it from a certain angle, it looks like the stadium's a pirate ship. Very fun optical illusion there. We have George Halas outside of Soldier Field in Chicago. I love how he's pointing. You can see he's walking. You can feel the motion of it. He wants a timeout or something. And our final honorable mention statue is a pair of them. It is Lambeau and Lombardi outside of Green Bay's stadium. Two icons of the franchise right next to each other. They're the two most fitting ones to get a statue in one of the oldest franchises in North American sports history. Getting two larger-than-life statues right next to each other, pretty awesome. And that now brings us to our number one statue in all of the NFL. It is the catch statue at Levi's Stadium for the San Francisco 49ers. Dwight Clark leaping up to catch a pass from Joe Montana. One of the most iconic moments in 49er history, and honestly, NFL history. You see this clip played all the time. A cool thing they did is that Joe Montana is actually the real distance away he was from Dwight Clark during the play. They have the exact height that he jumped up to catch the ball. It's literally a moment immortalized in history. It's inside the stadium, super easy to access and take pictures with. They have the exact play drawn up right under Dwight Clark. It's just an amazing way to honor two franchise legends and a moment that lives in infamy. So moral of the story, the 49ers do statues in an awesome way, and more teams need to take notes from them. All right, that is enough positivity for this video. We are going to talk about some horrible statues now, and unfortunately, it's only going to be a top 8 for these bad ones, because something that I sadly found out is there's just not a lot of NFL statues to choose from, and most of them are decent to good, but these 8 stick out as horrible. So without further ado, let's get to it. Number 8, and we have Walter Payton. Remember what I said earlier about somebody who doesn't know any of the history, seeing a statue and wanting to look more into it? Well, I think this statue is the opposite, because I think Walter Payton looks like Sasquatch hiding from a camera or something. I understand why he's holding the ball like that. He was known to carry it with one hand. I know the pose, but I think the execution is just horrible. He does not look like a football player. He looks like he's tiptoeing around his living room trying not to get caught by his parents eating a midnight snack. This is negative aura. I know he's an NFL legend. I know why they did it, but it's a real bummer when a coach gets a better statue than a player outside the same stadium. Do better, Chicago. At number 7, I have Lamar Hunt, who was the former owner of the Chiefs. He's also very well known for establishing the AFL, which eventually became the AFC, leading to the merger and our first Super Bowl. Cool. What's not so cool, his statue of him just standing there with his arms crossed outside the stadium. It's the only one the Chiefs have. My question is, why? They had a perfect candidate right there. Hall of Fame quarterback Len Dawson, who played on the Chiefs for 13 seasons, won them their first Super Bowl, the only Super Bowl they would even go to until 2019. He won 3 AFL championships with the Chiefs before the merger. He was MVP in 1962. Chiefs retired his number. Give it to a player, not Mr. Crossarms over here. I'm sorry. I'm sure Mahomes is going to get one day, but that's not going to be till he retires. So, I don't know, man. They could have done something better here. At number 6, I have the Jacksonville Jaguar, because this guy's just not intimidating at all. Yeah, wow, his teeth are showing. But he's not perched up or anything. I mean, like a 10-year-old kid's probably taller than this in person. He's got a look on his face like someone just pulled his tail and he's like trying to run away. I just don't think it looks scary. I'm sorry. If you're going to go the route of not giving it to a player and making it your mascot, it needs to be big like the Atlanta Falcon, in an iconic location like Bucky the Bronco, or at least scary like the Carolina Panther. You see some muscle definition in that one. This guy looks like a cereal mascot. I don't like it. Maybe you disagree. I really don't care. This is a thumbs down. I hope they get a better statue when they renovate this stadium soon. At number 5, I have the Snoopy statue at MetLife Stadium. Why was this built? The Jets and the Giants are two pretty historic franchises, and they don't have statues for any of their former players, coaches, owners, friends, family. Notice I didn't say fans, because yeah, they gave a fan a statue. I'll talk about that one later. But you know who else they gave one to? Snoopy! I love me some Snoopy. I watch the Peanuts Halloween special every October. But giving him a statue just because he's MetLife's mascot? That's so stupid. You don't see a pair of bronze Levi jeans outside the 49ers stadium. This is frickin' lame, man, and you cannot tell me otherwise. What are we doing at MetLife? At number 4, we have the Sean Taylor statue, if you want to call it that. I'll tell you what, the Washington Commanders aren't calling it that. It's a memorial. They unveiled this on the 15th anniversary of his tragic death, and it's literally just his uniform with nothing under it. This looks like a display you'd see at Sports Authority trying to sell football gear, not a tribute to a player who was tragically killed. Now, the Commanders never said that it was going to be a statue. There were some publications who were saying it was going to be a statue. They still claim it's a memorial, but it had to be on this list. I'm sorry. If they called it a statue, it'd be number 1. They know they messed up so bad that they said they're actually going to do a real statue this season or next. So we'll see if that actually happens. Considering the state of their current stadium, I don't know how well that's going to go over. We'll see if they have money for it. Here we are, the top 3. Number 3, I have Johnny Unitas outside of Baltimore Ravens Stadium. And while I did give them a lot of credit for the Ray Lewis statue, this one stinks. Now, just like the Walter Payton one, I understand, like, this is what he looked like when he played, but they really could have taken some creative liberties. They could have had the follow-through of the throw, something more athletic. This looks horrible. Looks like my uncle at our pickup game during Thanksgiving. Looks like the guy on the flag football team who wants to take Mahomes' job when the Olympics come around. I mean, this does not look like the golden arm, as it says at the bottom of the statue. Looks like the noodle arm. Just incredibly awkward all the way around. At number 2, we have the Superfan statue at MetLife Stadium. I brought this one up before. I still can't believe it's real. Postal Service worker Jeff Bloom has his own statue outside of MetLife Stadium. He's had season tickets his whole life. He's at all the Giants games, and here's his Captain Morgan statue. I mean, it just looks cheap right off the bat. It's got a stupid QR code on it. It just reeks of a publicity stunt, which is exactly what it is. And back to my point earlier, the Giants and Jets who share this stadium don't have any statues of their actual players. They have Snoopy, and they have this guy, which just makes it a million times worse. I don't know what is going on here, but it's nothing good. And the number 1 worst NFL statue is the Jerry Richardson statue outside of Carolina Panthers Stadium. And this thing is horrible for so many reasons. And I'm just gonna get it out of the way. It's not there anymore. I know, maybe bent a few rules on this one, but it is so bad it had to be here at the number 1 spot. So Jerry Richardson, the former owner of the Panthers, who, mind you, have not won anything while he is the owner, closest they got was that Super Bowl against the Broncos, had a statue gifted to him for his 80th birthday. Nothing screams American capitalism like a guy who hasn't done anything getting a statue instead of players. And it was put outside the stadium in 2016. Him next to 2 Panthers. No player statues or anything, just the owner, because it was his birthday. Phenomenal. So in 2018, just 2 years later, he had to sell the team. He had 4 separate settlements he made to former employees due to his inappropriate workplace comments, and even using a racial slur. So just not a good guy at all. Didn't deserve a statue to start with. Definitely didn't deserve one now. Sold the team, not even the owner anymore. So here they are in 2020 with a statue of an owner who didn't do anything, who was a horrible person, and then the George Floyd protests started, and people were on social media saying, let's go take that racist owner's statue down. So the Panthers actually removed it so it would not get defaced, and what do you know? They announced it was not coming back out. So if you ask me, they just used this as an excuse to get rid of a statue they knew should have never been made in the first place. And that is the disgraced legacy of the Jerry Richardson statue. The worst one ever. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this trip down the incredibly wacky world of NFL statues. If you liked that video, I would really appreciate it if you could like it, subscribe, share it with your friends, or if you don't want to do that, that's fine too. Until next time, this is Sean, and that was my top 5.